My name is Ajit Gopalakrishna. I'm the Chief Performance Officer for the Department of Education, doing a lot of different things and more recently some grant making activities. So we're thrilled actually to be engaging in this work through the Dual Credit Expansion Grant. This actually started off with District Voice, led to a tweak in our accountability system where we started valuing students earning college credit before graduation. And before you know it, we're now providing additional resources and supports to encourage this work. I'm joined by my colleague, Renee Savoy, who is really helping keep all of this moving and moving forward. So thank you, Renee, for everything you do on this and many other projects. We are thinking about this work systemically, I would say, not just as a single one-off type of grant. We're hoping that and putting things in place to really build a system of dual credit opportunities for our students across the state. This grant is one piece of it, an important piece of it, to support all of you in the school districts. But we're also actively partnering with our IHE colleagues, Institution of Higher Ed colleagues, many of whom I believe are on this call. So we are talking with them as well to, again, support them, and more on that in the coming weeks, actually, to support our IHE partners with resources so that as you build up your capacity in school districts, our IHE partners can build up their capacity for you to expand and work on those partnerships. Because I think as a system, we need to really do that. And we'll be talking a little bit about sort of strengthening that system quality and nurturing that quality and paying attention to that quality a little later on in this presentation. And we have some national colleagues on the call as well. So we're really looking forward to that piece and that work as well. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Renee Savoy to walk us through the logistics. I'll pipe in with some commentary as needed. So welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining this first community of practice.
Yeah, with over 100 people on the line, that's awesome. I'm really impressed. So our agenda today looks brief, but there's kind of a lot in there. We want to talk about grant logistics. I've been getting a lot of questions about the ins and outs of how reimbursement is going to work. We have some answers, we have some TBD. We want to talk about this community of practice moving forward, scheduling, how we're going to be communicating with all of you. If we have time, we're going to take a quick look at the post-secondary readiness report on EdSite. That's what we're really actually going to be using to measure change, the change that you all are making through the use of these grants, and obviously the big efforts you have, the partnerships you have going with your IHE partners. And then finally, as Ajit said, we have some national partners that are going to be on the line. They should be on by about 3 o'clock. So the first part of the agenda should wrap up by about 3, so we can turn it over to them. So grant logistics, a progress report. We are doing everything we can to make this process as efficient as possible. And one small way we've hopefully taken some of the burden from you is we have taken all of the information that you submitted through the online application when you applied for the grant. So all of the expense explanations and the dollar amounts for the budget, we actually had input into EGMS so that you didn't have to re-enter everything again. That just invites error and is probably not the best use of your time. So that is in EGMS on your behalf in advance. Some of your districts are being funded with ARP ESSER funds, and other districts are being funded with ARPA funds. We have most of the districts are under the ARP ESSER funding umbrella. And you'll know if you're an ARP ESSER district because that means we received your application in that first wave. So we received it by July 17th. And you told us that you were going to be expending and liquidating all your funds by September 30th, 2024. So you're in that bucket. Those funds are available. They've been input by us, they've been approved by fiscal, and they are ready for you. The ARPA funding districts, there are 29 of those. That's everyone that we received after July 17th. In any of the earlier applications that said you're going to need some time beyond September 30th. A lot of the really big districts fall into this category. Those dollars are still pending approval. We're expecting that any day. We keep checking daily to see if they've been approved yet. Once those have been approved by fiscal, then you're going to be in the same boat as the ARP ESSER people and can begin to request reimbursement for expenses that you have incurred. Some of the logistics as far as next steps that we're less certain of at the moment, and we want to be able to provide you the most efficient way to get these things done. And so we will be following up with you with more detail, but the whole process for requesting reimbursement, we want it to be simple. So we're not asking for copies of invoices to be uploaded. We're not looking for a tremendous amount of detail, but we do need to collect some level of information. So we're trying to find that balance. And once we've figured that out, which will be very soon, we'll be explaining to you what it is you need to input into EGMS when you are requesting that reimbursement. Some of you want to make adjustments to your plans. Maybe you know now you need to make an adjustment, or maybe it's something that comes up in 6 months from now. But we want to give you a process that makes sense to be able to make those kinds of adjustments. And then finally, any adjustments to the budget. Maybe you need to move some money around into different categories. We can take care of that. But again, we just want to have a solid process that makes sense to everybody, and so that we're all on the same page. So that information will be forthcoming.
Renee, if I can jump in here, just
That would be great.
Briefly, just to add. One is that, just to be clear on the ARPA grants as well, all grants are approved from our standpoint. Okay, so the grants are approved in the sense that we've forwarded everything from our office. We're just working with OPM on some final paperwork. And once that happens in EGMS, those 29 districts will also see a grant award letter and their funds sort of available for drawdown. So it's not that you're not approved, you're all approved for funding. We're just waiting for the actual money movement and the grant award letter issuance. So that will happen imminently. In fact, I was on a call with our fiscal colleagues just before getting on this one. So it's some minor tweaks that they're trying to get us to do, and that's not a big deal. It doesn't affect districts. So we're going to get that done. And then on the reimbursement request part that Renee was mentioning on, just to be clear again, or just to reiterate, is we want to keep this simple for you, and so that you don't have to not only send us too much information, but have to wait too long to do this. But know that in a reimbursement scenario, you don't have to wait. You're actually spending the money first and then requesting that for reimbursement. So if you need to do something, you can move forward and do it. And then when we give you these instructions, which will be very soon, you can then request reimbursement of those expenses. So just to be clear that grant activities can begin, it's just that the pipeline funding flow from our side is imminent. It's coming very soon.
Okay, so back to the community of practice, how we're going to communicate with you, our schedule for these monthly meetings. We've decided on the second Tuesday of every month, the same time slot, 2:30 to 3:30 is when we'll have our community of practice meetings. So sometime this week, I will be sending out a recurring invitation for that community of practice meeting. So you'll get the calendar invite. And I'm going to be sending this to all individuals who submitted a grant. And I'll tell you that some of those individuals who submitted grant are grant writers and not the people who are actually managing the work of the grant. So many of you, if you're in that role, have also given me the name of a designee that you'd like to have named for this community of practice. So I'm going to be sending this recurring invitation to both of you. And if you're someone who doesn't need to come to this community of practice meeting, then that's fine. You don't need to come, but I want to make sure I hit everyone. I'm also going to be sending it to all of the post-secondary readiness leads that are in our Find Contacts report. Back in, oh gosh, maybe March, we asked districts to identify one or more post-secondary readiness leads, and we invited them to come to this meeting. So you may be here and not actually be from a district who applied for a grant, and that's fine, because I think that there's going to be a lot of good information sharing over the course of the year that people can learn from. So we want to make sure the post-secondary readiness leads, whether they're grant recipients or not, are aware that these meetings are happening. So they're going to be getting an invitation. And then our dual credit contacts from the IHEs, I'll be sending them the invitation as well, just like I did for this session. So the one piece that I want to bring your attention to is this, to ensure consistent communication. We need the dual credit expansion grant contacts, the people who need to know about directions that we're going to be sending about how to claim the money or how to claim reimbursement, information about these community of practice meetings. We want to make sure that the dual credit expansion grant contacts are identified as post-secondary readiness leads through the contacts manager application. So how do you do that? And I believe that Ajit put a link to Find Contacts in the chat, but it's also in these slides, and I will send these around once the meeting is complete and the recording is posted so that you have it as a reference. But when you go to the Find Contacts report, up at the top, you can search by your district. And then notice the blue arrow that says check here first. We have a post-secondary readiness lead at the LEA level, and we have one at the school level. Districts made a decision about whether or not they wanted to do one or both. Sometimes they have the same person in both roles. That's fine. See if you're a person who is the contact for the dual credit grant, make sure you're listed as a post-secondary readiness lead. And if you are not, then you need to take a look at who your contacts manager writer is. And that's the purple rectangle. Those individuals are the people in your district who are able to add you as a post-secondary readiness lead in the system. Again, there can be multiple leads in a district. That is completely fine. And there are, again, instructions for how the contacts manager writer can actually add you in the contacts manager application if it's something that they're not as familiar with. So the link will be in the slides, and you can reference that after this meeting. Anything else you wanted to say about the Find Contacts or the leads, Ajit?
No, and just that this updates on a nightly basis. So when changes are made to those source contacts application in the contacts manager, the next day it should be on MedSite Public. So it's important for this to be up to date because that's how we're going to be reaching out to you.
And I would say if you could, if you need to be identified as a post-secondary readiness lead because you need the information and you're not currently identified, I would say I'm going to be using my multiple databases to communicate over the next, say, month. But I'd like to say by the next time we have our community of practice meeting, that all of our dual credit contacts are identified as post-secondary readiness leads. As you can imagine, it gets unwieldy when we've got the grant applicants and the grant applicants designees and the post-secondary readiness leads. We really need one sort of sole source of truth that we can go back to so that we're not missing messages and miscommunicating.
I know we've rattled off a whole bunch of details here. Before we jump to the next part, if you have any questions, again, please stick them in the chat and we can address them. So just wanted to mention that.
Okay, I guess I'll keep moving along. So we intend to promote all the work that you're doing. We want to get the word out about what is happening in districts. I can tell you, I was really impressed reading the plans, reading the applications, hearing what you're already doing, which is a lot of good that maybe a lot of people aren't aware of. And the plans for the future are just really interesting, I think really engaging for students. We want to get the word out about what you're doing. And so one initial way that we intend to do that is by creating a summary document that will list every district that applied for a grant, the amount awarded, and we're going to take the plan that you submitted through the online application, so what your actual plan for the funds was, not budget and all of that, but the plan itself. And we're putting that along with your district and creating a document that we can share broadly. So know that that's coming. Likely by the end of this month, you'll see it public. And I think that's going to be an initial way to really get the word out about all of this work that's ongoing. And I hear some questions appearing in the chat. Anything we need to address immediately?
I'm taking care of it in the chat, so.
Okay, great. So the summary document is one way we're going to get the word out. And I think we're going to start to learn a lot from each other in these community of practice meetings. So I actually invited representatives from Bristol Public Schools. We have Carly Fortin, the Chief Academic Officer, and Jamie Reckenberg, the STEM Supervisor, as well as our colleague from Ansonia High School, Karen Phipps, who's the Master Teacher and Career and Tech Ed Lead Teacher. We invited them to join today to share, to talk about their plans briefly, just a few minutes. And I think we're going to be doing more and more of this more extensively throughout the year so that we can sort of hear what others are doing. And it gives us, I know Ajit and I, a better opportunity to have a deeper understanding of what's happening, the work that's going on, so that we can better spread the word on our end too. So we gave our district partners some questions to think about and maybe talk about during this session. And I guess I would invite Bristol to maybe start first.
Let's see. Okay, everything came on. Perfect. Thank you so much. First, I really want to say thank you for the opportunity for the additional funding to support our efforts in this area. It's an area where we've certainly put some focus over the past few years. So it's nice to be able to have some funding to support our ideas that we haven't yet been able to put into fruition. And I also want to thank you for the efforts being made to make this process of grant management around this as seamless and effortless as possible. I know that that could get tricky sometimes, so I appreciate your efforts in helping us manage that. So Bristol wrote for the post-secondary enrollment grant, dual enrollment grant, primarily to expand upon the efforts we've made already in the CTE area. Dr. Reckenberg, who's joining me, has done some fantastic work in building out pathways for our CTE, career and technical education areas. By building pathways centered around a foundational course, an introductory course, and then a capstone course that would carry dual enrollment, whether that's concurrent enrollment with a university or seeking another alternative to college credit for students. The areas where we needed some additional support was in the humanities side. So students who might not necessarily be interested in the CTE area. So part of our grant is dedicated toward building those pathways out in humanities and fine arts. Bristol just recently opened our Bristol Arts and Innovation Magnet School, which is focused on fine arts opportunities, and we'd like to see some of our students at the secondary level engage in that concurrent enrollment in courses there. So that's one area, and I could speak a little bit more about some of the details there. The second goal that we had for the grant was around encouraging our students who might not yet be exploring post-secondary enrollment because they didn't have the self-sufficiency on their own to be able to afford post-secondary opportunities, which is why we're building in certification opportunities for students while they're in high school. So the concept around that is students would earn a certification that could lead to employment that could help them be self-sufficient in seeking post-secondary educational opportunity and carrying that through their educational experience, looking at maintaining and retention while students are in college, using the certification that they gained while in high school. So on the humanities side, to go back to that first goal, to build up pathways in humanities, just as some of the examples given the questions that we were given, the courses we're planning to offer. One example for our Bristol Arts and Innovation Magnet School would be courses around the visual arts pathway and digital arts pathways. And we are looking at courses that are available through Southern Connecticut State University, Visual Communication and Introduction to Digital Photography. We have the base courses, we have the foundational course, and we have an introductory course. Our capstone course in those pathways would be those two that I just mentioned from Southern. As an example around our humanities pathways, to give two examples, we're looking at a human rights pathway. Again, given some of the foundational and introductory courses we have at our high school, we believe that introduction to human rights and introduction to genocide studies, both through UConn, would be an opportunity for concurrent enrollment as the capstone course for that pathway. We also recognize that there's a peace and conflict studies that's available through the Connecticut Community College system that we think could be another option for students in that humanities pathway. And in another example, we have journalism and media as an intended pathway with our current UConn ECE English literature and language classes being a part of that particular pathway, expanding to other courses offered through Southern, such as media and freedom. On the non-traditional side, and talking about the certification pathways, we intend on using some of the grant funding to support an initiative, as one example that we've run in the district in the past, which is to offer certification in certified nursing assistants throughout the summer to students. Students gained that. We used our ESSER funds to be able to support that for the past 3 summers. Using that certification, we're finding that many of the students who enrolled in that summer opportunity then enrolled in our concurrent enrollment courses in our medical and health services pathway once they finished their senior year with us. So we're going to increase that by looking to offer additional certifications in our culinary pathways and our manufacturing pathways. I think I was able, maybe the last question there, what do I anticipate as our biggest challenge? Probably time, I think, as anyone would say. The time and competing commitments as we are thinking about the various areas of effort that are going to require our attention this year. And I think ensuring that we have really committed individuals identified in each of our schools to carry forward this work is one of the approaches that we're thinking about in terms of making sure that this work happens.
I don't know that I need to add anything to what Carly said. She said basically everything. I can say that the framework for our CTE programming has really been anchored in developing at least a trajectory of 3 or 4 courses, equating to a minimum of 2 credits for students so that they are able to grow in their exploration towards a career. But part of our criteria of being a pathway is that there has to be an opportunity for both a credential and credit. So we're planning to extend that in the culinary realm this year by offering ProStart certification so that our students are getting certified. They'll have some ServSafe certifications and so on, so that when they do seek employment, they are more qualified and more likely to get that employment and then use that employment to pay for post-secondary experiences. I will stop there and see if anyone has questions.
No, I applaud the way in which you're building industry certifications as part of dual credit pathways for students. I think that's great. I know we're sort of watching our time too. So if there's any questions for them, please stick it in the chat, as you know, we can all see that. I think shall we invite Ansonia?
I think Karen's still in the room, and she should be able to unmute herself.
Hi, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Hi, I'm Karen Phipps from Ansonia High School. Thank you for inviting me to speak about Ansonia's plans for using the grant money. Ansonia has 6 pathway programs that offer concurrent enrollment For this grant, we wanted to focus on expanding our allied health pathway. This was based on student interest, job outlook, and our current staffing. So after formal and informal student surveys and research using Department of Labor statistics, we determined that offering an exercise science program in partnership with the University of Bridgeport's School of Health Sciences would benefit our students. Starting in the fall of 2024, students in grades 10 through 12 will be able to enroll in Introduction to Exercise Science and an American Council of Exercise Personal Trainer Certification prep course. Both of those courses will be taught by a PE Health certified teacher that we have in the building already, and this will provide our students with 6 college credits, and they will be on track to become personal trainer certified. We believe that offering high interest pathway programs like exercise science will increase the number of students enrolling in our concurrent credit courses, hopefully at least 10 percentage points, but we want to go big. So hopefully more than that. We found that they were really interested in learning more about health careers, including ones that are evolve around sports. Our teachers and our guidance counselors are honestly the best advocates for our program. So they're going to be promoting this to all students through meetings that they have with them throughout the year. And I think the last question was challenges. I feel our biggest challenge will be scheduling. So we're a very small school with limited staff. Popular electives often run against each other. So working with guidance to figure out how we can alleviate some of those problems with scheduling and student conflicts is going to be probably our biggest challenge right now. But we're extremely excited to offer this opportunity to our students, and we're very appreciative of receiving this grant funding. Thank you.
Thanks, Karen and Carly and Jamie. We really appreciate you taking a few minutes to share. I know that's kind of a fast pace, but as the months march on, hopefully we'll get to hear from more people and get even deeper into the challenges that you're facing and how you're able to overcome some of the obstacles and how your IHE partners are supportive in that process as well.
There is a question from Mark asking if anyone is facing issues surrounding scheduling and concurrent enrollment, and that he's also thinking about how to navigate certification issues if we lean into CTE courses at the high school. Would either Karen, Jamie, Carly, any of you want to jump in on that point?
I can add a little bit of Bristol's experience with certification. We have found that we've kind of pushed towards an 098 certification and really getting somebody who is out there who has experience within the field based off of the requirements for the 098 certification. So for instance, with our current early childhood education programming at Bristol Eastern, we have a teacher who was a former pre-K and early childhood teacher who was not certified to teach at the secondary level, but because of her experience in working in the early childhood world for so long, she qualified for what was called a 098 certification, which required our district to recommend her for that certification. We went through the process, and that's been helping us find what we need in supporting some of the different pathways and some of the technical programs within the CTE platform.
So for Ansonia, we've been trying to focus on the certifications that our current staff already has. Then what we try to do is partner with our schools, our college community partners, to provide training. So for example, we recently hired a new tech ed teacher who is not trained in Benchworks and blueprint reading. So during our professional development, we worked with Housatonic Community College to get that new teacher trained.
And Karen, there was a question for you in the chat as well about the courses that you mentioned for the exercise science. If you could either restate it or put it in the chat, that would be great.
The courses are Intro to Exercise Science, and they call it ACE, American Council of Exercise Personal Trainer Certification.
And I do believe that's in the summary document too, pretty sure.
And Bonnie put a question also, and this can be for anyone on this call, you know, are any districts pairing this grant with the contents of their Perkins grant? I mean, feel free to just respond to Bonnie in the chat. All right.
And I'll say in response to Bonnie too, just through the application process, when I was taking calls from districts with questions, I can't remember the districts specifically, but there were conversations about pairing it with Perkins grant money. And maybe that's a question we can explore moving forward in one of these monthly meetings as well. Given where we are time-wise, I think I'm going to skip doing a live demo of the post-secondary readiness report. This screenshot here should just serve as kind of a reminder that the post-secondary readiness report is a reflection of indicator 6 overall in the accountability system. But remember, indicator 6 includes meeting standards in a lot of different ways, where our grant is all about increasing the percentage of students who are earning 3 or more college credits prior to graduation. So to actually access that information about dual credits specifically, you do need to, from the default report, select the measure dual enrollment in order to get a better picture of where you stand now for your district or your school. And you can also select student groups so you can see how your students with high needs are doing and a lot of other breakdowns. And that's the point against which we are going to measure progress moving forward. We can do a demo of this report maybe next month. Hopefully by next month, we may have some updated data into the system. So we can take a look at not only 21-22, but also at 22-23. Anything else you'd like to say about the report, Ajit?
No, I think that selection of the earning credits 3 or more, that measure is really key in this report, because otherwise you're not looking at just the dual credit work. Students may meet this indicator 6 through multiple pathways, but for this grant and this effort, we're really focusing on that dual credit. And of course, there's student group data as well, so you can look at it for students of color, students from low-income families, etc. So, all right. So we now sort of move from hearing from our district partners to our colleagues at the National Alliance of Concurrent Enrollment Partnerships, or NACEP. And we are joined by Amy Williams, their executive director, and Diane Barker, the director of state engagement from NACEP. And I know we have predominantly high schools and K-12 folks on the call, but we also have some IHEs on the call. So I just want to, you know, when we think about this effort as a system, we are committed at the state to not just doing this initial push and incentive to expand, but also building that sort of system for quality and ongoing quality going forward. So when we looked around this work, clearly NACEP was the leader in this space in terms of ensuring quality for our concurrent enrollment work that's happening predominantly in these grants here. So we figured that we would invite Amy and Diane to this call to speak about what it means to have quality in these programs and what are the kinds of supports they offer, because this work applies predominantly, yes, to the IHE side of the house, but it absolutely involves the high schools as well. So you know, this is kind of this bridge between when students, you know, we have NEASC and so on for our high school work, and then you have other different standards like NETCHI for the college level accreditation, but NACEP sort of fits in that middle space where the two systems come together and work together. So their standards and their supports are really important. And before I turn it over to them, I just want to mention also that we are looking to engage in a contract, a long-term contract with NACEP to support us as a state to build the systems so that we have ongoing quality in this work. So again, Amy and Diane, so I really thank you for giving of your time here to join us, and I will turn it over to you to share your words of wisdom for us as we sort of begin this work here in Connecticut.
All right. Thank you, Ajit and Renee. It's a pleasure to be here to kind of help you kick off this exciting new area of work for the state of Connecticut. And thank you for the kind words. We always appreciate that focus on quality and the key elements of partnership and connection that lead to quality programs. My name's Amy Williams. I have the pleasure and the responsibility of leading NACEP. For those that are unfamiliar with our organization, we're really the first and only national organization that works to support programs, practitioners, and policy to advance high quality dual and concurrent enrollment. And I know that we've got lingo across the board here in Diana and I work with a variety of states. We'll use dual and concurrent enrollment to kind of encompass the entire universe of the different programs that are out there, which is very native to our work. Like we work in this space where we deal with all things dual enrollment, dual credit, concurrent enrollment, early college, whatever you call it in your program and your system. We've probably heard of it, seen it, and supported it. So we serve many models here at NACEP with one solidarity focused mission. We're working to advance a national community to build equity and quality into dual and concurrent enrollment programs. And we do this through professional development opportunities. We do it through state and federal policy advocacy, research, program accreditation, as well as technical assistance at the state and institutional level. So we have these three buckets that our work usually falls into: supporting programs, practitioners, and policy. When we work with supporting programs, we support programs and program quality specifically by providing the only national framework of rigorous quality standards. The standards really outline those fundamental elements of a quality program, the non-negotiables, if you will. We also affirm quality and program excellence through accreditation as a program accreditor. We support practitioners in the whole realm of their work and the field as a whole as serving as that singular source of national best practices, the important peer-to-peer connections, research, guidance, assistance, and of course, advocacy. We hold the only national convening and professional development conference for the field, and we have topical workshops, webinars, leadership development opportunities, as well as publishing, promoting, and curating a bevy of resources that have value to the field, both the resources that we ourselves compile and publish, as well as other organizations and institutions and programs working in and around this space. Lastly, we definitely do a lot of support in policy. It's a popular conversation these days, and we really come at our policy approach from a very focused position. We really feel strongly that we need to work to ensure that the voice of practitioners, which we feel is the most relevant and informed voice on concurrent and dual enrollment, are at the table for state and federal policy conversations, because as many of you know, they are the primary drivers that are required to implement policy. And so we feel very strongly that having their voice prior to the policy being developed is an important step. At NACEP, we like to say that we come from the field and we exist to support the field. That's very tightly tied to the foundation and advancement of our organization. Those that have done this work, and it sounds like you guys are doing outstanding work across the board, know that it relies on strong, consistent, invested partnership. Because what we're trying to do is join two sectors of education that are traditionally separated in time and space. And that moving from one to another is a major life milestone. I just had a son who graduated and went off to college. They have different funding structures, different mechanisms for oversight and accountability, different pacing and scheduling. We touched on some of that today, as well as different state and federal policy requirements. So navigating all these elements needed to build and manage a program really takes that commitment to communication and collaboration from both partners. So partnership is really the foundation of everything in our space. I would also add, so is connection. So what we're perhaps best known for is connection. As many of you know, doing this work can be challenging, and it is certainly filled with unique nuance. Practitioners are often the only ones or one of maybe a few people on their high school or college campus that understand how these programs function, what they can be used for, the details and nuts and bolts of how to build and manage a program. which being one person or one of just a few can feel isolating. And because of this, it's really refreshing when you find and connect with others that are doing this work. And so every year at our events and our webinars, our workshops, we get the pleasure of seeing those connections happen, which is one of the reasons we're so excited about this community of practice, building a network of colleagues who know the work, can help you celebrate your successes, and maybe even help you troubleshoot some of the challenges that are likely to come along the way. Through our work over the years, NASEP has built a nationwide network of education professionals doing this important work in a variety of state contexts and a variety of different program types. And we built that network for the sharing of best practices and particularly adaptable approaches to program development, management, and structure. We were always trying to keep our finger on the pulse of what's coming next for the field so that we can outline and support areas of future challenge or innovation and opportunity. So that's an important role that we play. And we work with a variety of different states and the programs within them in a variety of different ways to advance our mission and the field as a whole, which is the perfect opportunity for me to hand things off to my dear colleague, Diane Barker, who is NASEP's Director of State Engagement, to talk a little bit about our work within and work in and with states. Over to you, Diane.
Thanks so much, Amy. And thanks again, Renee and Ajit, for this opportunity to speak to everyone in Connecticut. So in addition to the services that Amy outlined, NASEP supports states by providing technical assistance to elevate the voices of the field and support quality programming. This work can be seen through NASEP's work on federal, state, and local levels. NASEP's vision is for all secondary students to have equitable access to quality college courses that support the post-secondary, their goals or their career goals. In the coming months, we will work together and engage in activities that will enhance statewide development of quality-focused dual and concurrent enrollment programs. We're here to learn more about the areas where we can help support at all levels of programming, as well as provide technical assistance through professional development. So if you're familiar with NASEP, if you're not familiar with NASEP, we invite you to visit our website at nacep.org to learn more about our work. View the resources that are available and consider attending our events, such as our Wednesday webinars or our national conference, which is this October in St. Louis. So again, I'd like to thank the Connecticut Department of Education, Ajit and Renee, for this opportunity to work with you all. And Amy, the NASEP team, and I look forward to working with you guys in the future. Thank you.
Thanks, Amy and Diane. Really appreciate it. I put links to some NASEP resources, and there are a ton. Some really good ones around that are helpful for high schools, but also for obviously for the colleges as well. So please do take some time to look at that. In the coming months, once we get our contract established, we will have professional learning opportunities as well, where you can get a little more into the NASEP standards and understand, how what we're doing aligns with those standards. So I think that'll be important work in the coming months. And again, as I've said before, we are here to support our district and our IHE partners through this work. And are there any questions for our NASEP colleagues? And really, anyone, you can raise your hand and we can try to unmute you, and you can ask your question orally as well if you don't want to put it in the chat. It's a quiet day. Right. Renee, I'll turn it back to you.
Okay, so I think, we're so early on in this process that I'm sure, thinking about the quality standards and talking about NASEP probably feels a little too early at this point. But I think it's paying attention to quality if we really do have the rapid expansion that we believe we're going to have. I think we need to have some guardrails in place to ensure that the experiences that our students are having are the best possible. And so I think NASEP is going to be a great resource for us going forward, and will be more to come on that. So this is just an early taste. I see a couple of chats coming in.
Anna's making a push for starting a little earlier in the day. We'll take that under consideration. Our feeling was that the 2:30 time slot actually works well for high schools because it's after your day, but we'll consider that request, Anna. Appreciate that.
Feel free to lobby me early before we get out that recurring invitation. So I guess I don't see the need. Oh, let's see. Educators Rising.
Yeah, Michelle, it's a good question. The grants that this particular dual credit grant, the real expectation is a partnership with a IHE that leads to college credit for students in high school. So if that type of a partnership can be made through the EdRising pathway, and frankly, I think there might be some existing grantees pursuing that type of pathway, because an EdRising course could be one that gives the student college credit while they're in high school. So as long as you can make that happen, it is definitely a pathway that is workable under this grant. I don't know, Renee, if any of our particular grantees sort of springs to mind. I'm not remembering anyone in particular, but the concept, as long as it's a course that results in high school and college credit, we're agnostic at some level to the content of the course. We just want to make sure it's of interest to students, help increase enrollment, et cetera. So
I feel like there are districts that have mentioned this as a potential path for them with Educators Rising and the dual credit grants, because I know I've read about it. And I know Quinnipiac has talked quite a bit about that. I'd have to go back to my summary, the 83 applications. I don't have them memorized, but I know that I've read about Educators Rising in some of those plans. And Alicia, we see that you've introduced yourself in the chat. Thank you for that. And I can connect with you about your questions regarding potential partnerships that would lead to CNA certification. I know we have districts that are doing that. So that might be a good, I can share those with you, and that might be a good starting point.
Yeah, there's some good responses coming in. That's great. Hartford, New Britain, would you like to, if you would like to say anything, or actually Charlene Diaz, if you would like to say anything about that, please feel free to raise your hand and we can unmute you and you could speak to your program. Guys, see. I make you a presenter, Shaka, so go ahead. You can ask your question, Shaka. You have to unmute though.
Okay, sorry about that.
There we go. Yep.
Jean. Hi, Renee. How are you? Hi, everyone.
I'm good. How are you?
Good. For Hartford, what we've done, we have various pathways at our comprehensive high schools. And so one of our comprehensive high schools, Buckley High School specifically, has a social justice, excuse me, pathway. And so what we're trying to do is do a slow rollout of Educators Rising, but pairing it with the middle school that feeds Buckley High School, so that we're starting an Educators for Rising club at the middle school, and then launching one course next semester in partnership with Central Connecticut State University for Educators Rising. So that's how we're trying to pair it up by building the pipeline early at the middle school through a club, so that as those 8th graders then come over to the high school, they're already introduced to Educators Rising, to the whole entire program, and then they start their coursework. So that's what we're doing in Hartford. I hope that helps.
No, that does. I know Charlene Diaz, you're also on. So if you wish to say something, feel free to unmute and share as well. And there was somebody else who raised their hand.
Jessica raised her hand, Jessica Hernandez, and I did give
Okay.
her presenter privileges, so she should be
Okay.
able to speak. There we go. There she
Yeah,
is.
there's Jessica. Go ahead, Jessica.
Hi, everyone. Just to add, so with New Britain High School, very similar to Hartford. So we are working with their Ed Rising program and their academy, so their public service academy. And my understanding is that we have faculty who are doing both, building the pipeline for dual and concurrent enrollment, where the students can get credit for a sequence of 3 courses. That would kind of create a pathway into the School of Education here for the students that are part of the Academy and Ed Rising program.
Yeah, so
I'll
Judith
just-
had a, oh, go
Sorry.
ahead, Renee.
I was going to
No,
make a
please.
comment in response to Matthew. I started to type and I was like, I may as well just say it, asking about future, having breakout groups and future meetings based on pathways. Is it possible? Anything's possible. We're sort of, we're kind of building this as we go. And I would say if there are concepts like that, that would be helpful to all of you, let us know. I mean, we want this to be a community of practice that's useful and we can learn from it. And we don't necessarily know exactly what you need, so tell us. Send those suggestions to me and we'll do what we can to try to meet your needs the best we can.
Yeah, Judith had a question from Newtown about post-secondary education that is not college credits. That is currently not within the scope of this particular grant because we are focused here on work that results in college credit. But as you heard from some of our speakers, they've been able to weave in the industry certification as part of that pathway. So as long as it results in college credit, these grant funds can be used for that purpose. All right, good ideas and good questions. Keep them coming. Any other points of note, Renee, that we need to mention today?
Not that come to mind immediately, but we will be reaching out to the different groups and keeping you posted, updated on everything. And we hope it'll be a two-way flow of communication. So again, share your ideas with us, share your suggestions with us, and we'll do what we can to hopefully meet your needs.
Great. I think given there's nothing else from our end, we don't need to hold people any longer. Just want to say on behalf of State Department of Education, thank you to NACEP and thank to all of you for making time to join us on this Tuesday afternoon. Keep up the good work. Connecticut is sort of new to maybe building the system around this, but we're not new at this work. We've been at this before. We have lots of strong programs in our state and strong high schools in our state. So we'll continue to grow and I'm sure we'll make our state proud in sort of being a national leader in this work. So thank you for everything you do and have a good afternoon.